Hey everyone. So, this is a bit of a spontaneous video. I hadn't planned on making a video about the Tour de France, but I basically just noticed yesterday that it's about to start. I used to watch it every year, but I haven't followed it in a while. And I realized if there's ever been a sport that's perfect for an ASMR video, it's cycling. Because what we have are plenty of maps. And I figured, hey, why not look through the different stages of this year's tour and see what we can expect. The tour this year starts on the 26th of June and it lasts 3 weeks until the 18th of July. And it is the 108th Tour de France. So, this year we are starting in the Bretagne. The Grand Départ is in Brest. And the first stage takes us to Landerneau. From there we move north to Peru-Guirec, along the coastline towards the Mur de Bretagne. We're then jumping towards the southern coast to Lorient and going to Pontivy. And the last stage in the Bretagne goes from Redon to Fougères. And this first leg ends with a special type of stage. You can see that it looks a little differently. And that's because it's a so-called Einzelzeitfahren. It's a contre-la-montre or time trial in English. So it's each rider for himself. Right. Now we're going to Tours, towards Châteauroux on July the 1st, Vierzon to Le Creusot, and then we're getting into the Alps here from Oyonnax towards Le Grand Bonnard, from Cluse to Tignes. You can see this looks quite mountainous. And then we're having a rest day here on Monday, July the 5th. The tour then continues from Albertville towards Valence, from Surques to Malaucène. You can see that they're doing a loop here, which is quite unusual. I don't think I've seen that before. And then from Sepaux-Trois-Châteaux towards Nîmes, which is where the next stage starts. So it's Carcassonne. And from Carcassonne towards Quilon. Then here in the south, we're in the Pyrenees, so the next mountainous part. From Céry to Andorra-la-Vella. I'm guessing this is already Spanish. We're having a rest day again on Monday. And we resume. Again, I'm not sure if this is French or Spanish. Probably Pas de la Casse. And we're going through the mountains towards Saint-Gaudens. Then it's July the 14th, which is the national holiday in France. So always a special stage from Muret towards Saint-Léry-Soulan and the Col-de-Portet. And then this should be the final mountain stage from Pau to Luzerden. Moron towards Libourne is probably quite flat, and here we're having a second time trial to Saint-Emilion. This is a really quite traditional time trial the day before the tour goes to Paris. They're probably taking either the train or a flight to Chateau, and from there on Sunday the 18th the peloton goes to Paris, where they'll arrive on the Champs-Élysées. Alright. Before we look at these in depth, let's just quickly look at some pictures here from last year. So I didn't watch it at all last year. It was normally the tour starts end of June, start of July. And for me, it's always been something that I really associate with the start of summer. You know, school would be out, I'd finally be off at home, it would be hot, and I would just sort of, you know, maybe not sleep, but just doze a little in the afternoons and watch the tour. Last year, however, it started on August the 29th, so quite late. On the Côte d'Azur, however, without any sun. You can see it was raining quite a lot. We have the two young riders who finished first and second, both from Slovenia. I hope I'm pronouncing these names right. Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič. I'm gonna find out if that's right next week, probably, once I can listen to the commentary. And they are, I think they're both really young, so that's quite amazing. It's often said that the tour is more something for experienced riders because it is quite hard. And it's very rare for young riders under 25 to win it. Here we have one of the German riders, Leonard Kemner, who won a stage. And we have the celebration in Paris, normally with 4 different riders for the 4 jerseys, but in this case, Tadej Pogačar won both the yellow jersey for the overall best rider, the polka dot jersey for the best rider in the mountains, and the white jersey for best rider under 25. So that's quite a feat. And the green jersey here is for the best sprinter. This is an Irishman, Sam Bennett. We have some portraits of the different team members. And that's it, let's skip ahead. Here's some of the favorites for this year's tour. Of course, there's Tadej Pogačar and Primož Roglič. There's also Geraint Thomas and Simon Yates, Tao Hart, all from Great Britain, Rigoberto Urán, who I remember back from when I used to watch, he's from Colombia, Mikel Landa and Vico Kelderman. I don't think I know these two. Miguel Angel Lopez and Guillaume Martin. really a bit out of the loop at this point. And I think one of the more difficult things about cycling is that the teams are usually named after the sponsors, and these sponsors can change every year, so it's kind of hard to keep track who's who. I do remember they've been a sponsor for a long time, and it says here the teams existed since 1992. Probably under often with a co-sponsor. We have Astana here with Alexander Vinokurov, who I remember from the wild times after Lance Armstrong and Jan Ulrich left the sport. He was quite the character. I remember when there was a photo of him where he was wearing a jersey with a face of himself, and it said Vino forever on it. But you do have to love yourself if you want to be successful. Here we have Peter Sagan, one of the best sprinters of the last years. A lot of French teams, of course. Here, Julien Alaphilippe, one of the French favorites. I looked through these lists of names yesterday, and I really recognized like 2 or 3 names per team. There's a lot of younger riders now that I haven't seen yet. So I'm curious to see how that's going to go this year. Of course, someone like Simon Yates has been around for a while. Fabio Aru. Edvard Westenhagen, who used to be a really good sprinter. And Vincenzo Nibali. I think when he won the Tour, that was the last time I watched it in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. So it's been a while. Right, and then of course, I think you can tell why I just really enjoy watching the Tour de France. It's visually just stunning. I think it's one of the aesthetically most beautiful sports, just because you see so much of France and the countryside. And there's always this really festive atmosphere. All these small towns that the tour passes through are decorated. People are waiting along the route for the peloton to pass by. And then of course you have these gorgeous mountain stages in both the Alps and the Pyrenees. So let's have a look at these more up close. This is the stage that's going to start us off in Brest. And you can see here that there's a neutral start, and then kilometer 0 is here about 20 minutes later. And this usually happens in front of every stage. There's a car in front of the peloton that sets the pace and then officially marks the start and leaves. And from there on, it's usually all out. So, considering this is close to the coastline, this could be quite a windy stage, but I'm guessing here. And you can see that there are some smaller hills in there, like the Côte de Le Cronan. This is category 3, so not too difficult, either not too steep or not too long. And you can win some points by getting up there first. And here this category 4 are really just a small hill to jump over. Côtes de Margaron. Here we have a green S, meaning there's a sprint where you can win some points with the green jersey. And another mountain category, Côte de Saint-Rioval. And here you always get some points for the polka dot jersey. Right, so we're going north here. One last climb. And we're finishing in Landerneau. So on a side note, I really like how some of the regions along the coast are called Finisterre. I think in Portugal there's also an area called Finisterra, just end of the world. Can't go any further. The second day says here is probably going to be quite similar. We're having our start in Perros-Guirec along the Côte de Grigny-Rose, so that sounds very beautiful. You can probably look out across the sea from here. Some smaller climbs and an intermediate sprint. Here we come through Saint-Brieuc. And we're finishing in Gare-les-Dents with a loop up the Mur de Bretagne. So you see that this part here is repeated, and it's a climb of the category 3. 2 kilometers at 6.9%. Then, like I said, the next part is in the southern part of Bretagne. We have the Atlantic Ocean, Passage de la Tignouse, Belle-Île, the Golfe de Morbihan, near Vannes, I think I've been somewhere around here, but I was looking for the exact place earlier. I can't find it. But I think it was somewhere near Guérande, where we watched some of the salt gardens. It was the first time I'd seen that. But let's see where the tour's going. From Le Rayon to Carnac and La Trinité-sur-Mer, Saint-Philippe and Auray, Saint-Anne-de-Ré, Plumercas, Grandchamp, Lac-Maria-Grandchamp, le reste, Peloton, La Cropin, Le Croiseau, Plumelec with Côte de Cadoual, going north to Guigon and Josselin, intermediate sprint de La Fourchette, Plus Griffé, Locminé, and another climb at the Coteau Plumelio, Bieussy, Le Cloître, Le Croix-Rouge, Guérin, and Saint-Tréfine, and we're finishing in Pontivy. So it says here's probably a good stage for the sprinters. And then the last one, this is completely flat from Redon past Rennes, which is a beautiful city. We're passing along the outskirts towards Vitré, Châtillon-Vendelay, and up to Fougères. So pretty sure this is going to be a stage for the sprinters too. All flat. And you can see that we're getting into the region of the Loire here. We have Maine-et-Loire, Loire-Atlantique. It's a region where you would find all of the beautiful castles. You can probably see a lot of them on TV during the stage. Here we have the time trial from Angers. Let's see, this also looks completely flat. Here we get to the last 10 kilometers, 5,000 meters. Through the city here you can see we're going across the Boulevard Féligras, Pont Aristide Briand, Place du 11 Novembre, Cours de la Résistance, Rue du Vieux Saint-Louis, Rue Léo Lagrange, Boulevard Edouard Montseillet, and the finish line. This one is altogether 27.2 kilometers. So that's relatively short. I think it's the normal length now for time trials. Back when I started watching, they used to be probably twice as long, around 50 kilometers, if not longer. And I think it's a good thing that they shortened them, because time trials can be extremely difficult for a lot of riders. You would use different bikes. That can be quite hard to get used to. Again, we're in the region of the Loire. We have Indre-et-Loire. We have Loire-et-Cher. However, this is a different river. Without the E at the end. Indre. We have a big national park. Parc naturel régional de Loire-Anjou-Touraine. With Assy-le-Rideau, one of the really beautiful castles in the area. And Anjou is the name you might recognize. Close by was the seat of the Dukes of Anjou, which would later become the family called Plantagenet, famous for their lineage in England. So we're starting in Tours. The neutral start. Avec une Ambroise, la Grande Touraine, Civray de Touraine, Gissault, Montaut-sur-Cher, Saint-Aignan, Noyers-sur-Cher, Les Brosses, Noyon-les-Fontaines, Écueillé, La Foulquetière, and intermediate sprint in Lucé-le-Mal, Valençay, and then straight down past Lévroux towards the finish in Château Rouge. Here we have one short climb, category 4, Côte de Saint-Aignan. I think this is going to be negotiable. Next, we're approaching the Alps. From Vierzon, past Bourges, Cher, Nevers, Nièvre, one last sprint in Saint-Denis d'Azy, and then we're getting towards the Parc Naturel Régional du Morvan. And with it, the first climbs, Côte de Château-Chignon, category 3, Côte du Glusan-Glen, category 4, Autun, Côte de la Croix de la Libération, category 2, so this is already a bit more significant, Signal du Champ, and the final category 4 climb, Côte de la Gourloye, and the finish in Le Creusot. So we're already having 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 climbs in a row. And here we are in the mountains, Haute-Savoie, Massif des Aravis, au Mont Jura. So here we are really getting into some steeper territory. We start in Oyonnax. You can see these small roads. Valserone, Louise, La Croisée, Chenon-Sémine, Vancy, Mont. Something for the sprinters here in Frangy. Marliot, Couponnet, les côtes de Couponnet, Cruizet, l'île Bouveret, Métonnet en Borne, with a climb, Roche-sur-Foron, Bonneville, and then we have our first category 1, Côte-Mont-Saxonnet, followed by another one, the Col du Rhône, and you can see this is all really sort of tightly curled, probably quite steep up the Col de la Colombière, and we're finishing at Le Grand Bonnard. And of course with these mountain stages it's always interesting to look at the relief. You can see here we don't have any points for the mountain jersey, but we're really starting in quite difficult territory with plenty of climbs. This looks quite steep. Again here up the Col du Rhône and the Col de la Colombière following right behind it. And we're finishing on a descent towards Le Grand Bonnard. Clus-sur-Tignes, the 9th stage, again quite steep. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 climbs, and we're ending on top of a mountain in Tignes. We're here in the Haute-Savoie region, going to Salange, up the Côte de Drancy, Passe des Mécortiers, Megève, a short intermediate sprint in Bras-sur-Allier. Then we have La Facette, Notre-Dame de Bellecombe, Crest Volant, Category 1 Col de Cécy. Moving into the next climb, Passe Beaufort, up the Col du Pré, which is HC. So this is the highest category and the most difficult one, followed by category 2, the Commet du Roussillon, Crépette, Bourges-Sommery-les-Arches, CS, Passe-la-Roisière, Sainte-Foy-Tarentaise, La Tuile, Piperon, Les Prévières, and of the final mountain, Monte de Tignes. So this is quite long. And here you can see again there's 2 following right behind one another. On the 10th stage, we're leaving the high mountains to go from Albertville past Chambéry and Coigny, past the Slavok, climb here the Col du Cous and the sprint at La Placette towards Isère, Moron, Varay, Touillon. And here this looks not too difficult, unless it gets windy, towards Valence. You have Grenoble here, Saint-Jean-de-Maurienne, plenty of national parks, Parc National des Écrins, de la Vanoise, de Chartreuse, Parc naturel régional du Vercors. So, beautiful region. And this one is the stage with the strange loop at the end. We start in Sorge, vers les fontaines, l'île sur la Sorge, Côte Fontaine Vaucluse, category 4, not too difficult, Les Ambers, Côte du Gord, Roussillon, Carca, Apt. Then we're turning towards the Col de Liguière, past Soult, and up the Mont Ventoux. Once, going all the way around and back up. Now the Mont Ventoux is long, steep, and frankly a pretty ugly mountain. I think there's a picture somewhere here at the front. Let's see if I can find it. It's a mountain that doesn't have any trees on it. It's just barren land. Not particularly nice to look at, not particularly nice to ride either, I think. Right, I can't see it right now. Here we have a different mountain, Col du Tourmalet and Luce-Artidan. Here we are, the Mont Ventoux. You can see this is not really inviting. And you already have all of these spectators waiting here along the road, waiting to cheer on the riders on their way up across these serpentines. So that's going to be a little difficult. Right, here we have another flat stage towards Nîmes. And then from Nîmes towards Carcassonne, along the Golfe du Lion, the mer Méditerranée, past Montpellier, the Parc Naturel Régional de Camargue. Yeah, the beautiful coastline here. Parc Naturel Régional de la Narbonnaise en Méditerranée, the Haute-Languedoc. Before we move to the Pyrenees, passe Montréal, Saint-Brunois, Col de Bac, Chafabre, La Villanée, Col de Montségur, Villester, Col de la Croix des Morts, Côte de Galinac, Col de Saint-Louis, and we're finishing in Quillon. Here we have some more cols from Serré, Prat, Dolette, up the Montée de Montlouis, Category 1, the Col de Puy-Moron, Category 2, Bourdon Valira, Souvenir d'Henri Desgranges, Category 1, and Col de Vexalis, I hope. We are in Andorra here, not in France anymore. Again, staying here in this corner, we have Andorra, we have the border towards Spain, we have here the Pyrénées Orientales, Ariège, Haute-Garonne. passe les Thermes, through the massif de l'Héris, le col de Port. A short sprint that's probably not going to change much in Victoust. Un petit col de la Cor, col de Portée d'Aspet, Côte d'Aspressera, and towards Saint-Gobain. Right, and here we are on the French national holiday. So this is always a special stage. We're going from Muret, past Haute-Garonne, Saint-Gobain. We're in a quick sprint in Bagnères-de-Lugeon, and then up to famous mountains, the Col de Péressour, the Col de Val-Laurent-Ancé, and we are finishing on an HC climb at the Col de Portée. So we have a little close-up here of the exact route. Col de Péressour, Louderville, Estervielle, Chinon, Loudranville. You can see these tight curls of the route here of the Col de Val-Laurent-Ancé, Sillery-Soulan, and again, steep climb towards the Col de Portée. From Pau, we're going towards Notre-Dame de Pietà, a smaller climb than Nice, Saint-Pézy-Bigorre and Lourdes, towards the Côte de l'Eau and Pouzac in Bagnères de Bigorre, in the Hautes-Pyrénées, at the Col du Tourmalet, Souvenir-Chacaudet. So these are all really famous mountains of the Tour that the peloton climbs quite often, and with a finish in Luzardiden again. A final climb. You can see here this is one long preparation for 2 HC climbs. So one of the final mountain stage, so this is definitely a decisive one. Then we're back here along the Atlantic coastline, finally. We have the Gironde, we have Bordeaux, and we're starting off in Mourant. One last climb, the Côte Barrée, and then it's just flat, past Mont-de-Marsan, through the regional park of the Gascogne, towards Libourne, near Bordeaux. That's where we have the second time trial, this time 30 kilometers, so just a little longer than the first one. And here's one of the pictures of Jan Ulrich. He was really the big favorite in Germany, probably one of the favorite riders for the entire country. Again, this one is not as long as they used to be, and finishes in Saint-Emilion, and you can see it's not completely flat, so you have some little climbs here which might make a difference. And then the final stage, starting in Château, with a little tour on the outskirts here, into Paris, Boulevard des Marchaux, Porte de Châtillon, Place d'Enfer-Rochereau. We have the Jardin de Luxembourg, Pont-Neuf, Palais du Louvre, and then we have the Entrée du Circuit, 8 tours. So they're going around here 8 times up towards the Arc de Triomphe and back towards the Louvre before there's a big sprint at the end. And that will be it for this year's Tour de France. Again, we have here the 4 different jerseys that you can win. The history on les printemps, la Bretagne and the Tour. And one last overview. Starting in the Bretagne, first time trial, cross into the Alps, south through the Pyrenees, second time trial, and the finish in Paris. So, let me know if you're planning to watch and who your favorite is if you have one. I really have to get familiar with this year's peloton first, but I'm excited about it. Alright, so even if you're not interested in cycling, I hope this was nonetheless relaxing and enjoyable. And I'll see you soon.